Some choices are made in rooms so quiet you can hear your own doubt breathing. No one claps, no one understands, and still you have to live with what you decided long after the noise fades. There is a kind of responsibility that doesn't come with ceremony. No announcement, no reassurance that you're doing the right thing. It arrives quietly like nightfall and asks you to decide who you are when no one is watching. Most life is routine. You wake up. You move through obligations that feel familiar enough to be safe. Work, expectations, conversations that repeat themselves like the ticking of a clock. You learn how to fit in, how to explain yourself, how to wait for signals before you move. But every so often, something interrupts that rhythm. A moment where delaying feels like betrayal. A situation where following the crowd feels easier but wrong. A decision that won't survive a vote. This is where responsibility becomes lonely. You feel it as a weight before you can name it, a tension in the chest, a narrowing of time. Suddenly the future feels closer than it should, pressing against the present. You look around, hoping for confirmation, a nod, a sign, some proof that this path won't leave you standing alone, but silence answers back. We're taught to associate responsibility with recognition. That if something is right, it will be understood. That if something is necessary, someone will thank us later. Reality is harsher than that. Some decisions fracture understanding. They don't look heroic in the moment. They look stubborn, cold, even selfish. And yet not making them would cost you something deeper. So you act, not dramatically, not confidently. You act with doubt still breathing in your ear, with the awareness that explanations may fail. With the knowledge that history might soften the edges, but your own mind will remember every detail. Afterward, life continues as if nothing happened. People move on. They form opinions without asking questions. They simplify what you know was complicated, and you return to routine carrying something invisible. This is where the real test begins, in the quiet hours when time stretches. When you replay the moment, not to relive it, but to measure it. Was it necessary? Was it worth it? Could you have chosen differently and still respected yourself? Nature offers no applause for standing your ground. A tree doesn't receive praise for holding through the storm. It simply bears the marks of where the wind tried to break it. You begin to understand that strength without witnesses feels different, heavier, less clean. There's no comfort in being misunderstood, but there is clarity, a sharp, honest awareness of what you chose and why. And slowly, uncomfortably, you realize something most people never say out loud. That responsibility without applause doesn't end when the decision is made. It follows you into silence, into sleep, into the long stretch of time where the only judge left is the one you can't escape. And that judge hasn't spoken yet. Time has a way of stripping moments down to their core. What felt urgent becomes quiet. What felt dramatic becomes ordinary, and what you chose remains. This is when isolation sets in, not the absence of people, but the absence of understanding. You can be surrounded by voices and still feel like you're carrying something no one else can see. The decision becomes a private landscape. Familiar, yet unshareable. You notice how carefully you move now, how you weigh words before speaking. Not because you're afraid, but because you know how easily meaning fractures once it leaves your mouth. There's pressure in this kind of solitude, not the loud pressure of crisis, but the slow compression of time. Days pass, nothing explodes, no great consequence arrives to validate or condemn you. And that uncertainty is its own burden. You start to question your motives in small, relentless ways. Was it conviction or pride, clarity or impatience? You revisit the moment from every angle, as if turning a stone over in your hand, looking for something you missed. The mind is relentless when it doesn't receive closure from the world. It creates its own trials, silent ones. This is where many people break, not because they were wrong, but because they wanted relief more than truth. It's tempting to rewrite the story, to smooth the edges. To tell yourself you had no choice, but deep down you know when that isn't fully honest. Responsibility without applause demands something harsher than endurance. It demands awareness. You begin to see the decision not as a moment, but as a line you stepped over. Once crossed, you can't return to who you were before it. That realization is sobering, like standing at the edge of a forest at dusk. The path behind you is visible, the path ahead is dark, and turning back would mean pretending you never saw what you saw. So you adapt, not by becoming harder, but by becoming clearer. You stop seeking validation in subtle ways. You let misunderstandings exist without correcting them. You learn that defending every choice is another form of dependence. Silence, once uncomfortable, becomes instructive. It shows you which thoughts are noise and which ones return no matter how often you try to ignore them. And in that silence, something shifts. You start to recognize the difference between regret and responsibility. Regret wants to undo. Responsibility wants to carry forward. Carrying forward doesn't mean justifying yourself forever. It means allowing the weight to shape you without letting it hollow you out. There is a quiet discipline in this, an internal order that doesn't announce itself. You become less reactive, less interested in being understood by everyone. You realize that some choices are not meant to be explained to the crowd. They are meant to be borne by the one who made them. This understanding doesn't bring peace right away, it brings sobriety. A grounded awareness that you are now living with the consequences, not as punishment, but as continuation. And still, the hardest part remains ahead, because carrying responsibility is one thing, living without reassurance is another. And there are nights when you wonder whether strength like this is sustainable, or whether it will eventually demand a reckoning you're not ready to face. Eventually, you stop waiting for the world to make sense of what you did, not out of bitterness, out of realism. You understand that history moves slowly, and understanding moves even slower. Some choices will never be clarified in public. They will never be redeemed by applause or softened by consensus. And strangely, this realization brings a steadier kind of calm. You begin to measure your life differently. Not by how often you are agreed with, but by how rarely you abandon yourself. Not by how many understand you, but by how clearly you can stand alone in your own mind. This is the discipline Musashi understood not as legend, but as practice. To act without waiting for permission. To carry the weight without demanding relief. Responsibility becomes less dramatic over time. It settles into your posture, into the way you move through uncertainty, into the restraint you show when reaction would be easier. You stop asking whether you were right. That question belongs to spectators. Instead, you ask whether you acted with full awareness, whether you saw the cost and still chose with intention, whether you accepted that clarity does not protect you from consequence. There is strength in that acceptance. A quiet strength that doesn't announce itself. Like a river that keeps its course even when no one is watching, like stone shaped by years of pressure rather than sudden force. Time becomes an ally here, not because it erases the past, but because it proves what remains when excuses fade. You notice that the inner noise lessens. Not because doubt disappears, but because it no longer controls you. You've learned to coexist with unanswered questions without being consumed by them. This is not peace in the soft sense, it's alignment. Alignment between what you know, what you choose, and how you live afterward. You accept that your mind may never fully forgive you, and that's not a flaw, it's a reminder that awareness has a memory. A warrior doesn't seek a quiet conscience by avoiding hard decisions. He earns a livable conscience by refusing to lie about them, so you walk forward. Not lighter but steadier, not celebrated but intact. You let the world misunderstand if it must. You let history decide in its own time. What matters is simpler and harder. That when the noise is gone, when the day is done, when silence returns, you can sit with yourself and not look away.